Hey, it's Arcsecond. In this video, I'll cover the changes that made Diana less viable. Starting off with the teleport nerf. Teleport in general is more important on melee champions than range champions, and especially on Diana because she does not move well through the river and jungle. She relies on TP to keep lane pressure, split push pressure, and make TP plays. That's how she can join a fight in another part of the map. And so the channel duration got increased from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and the cooldown got increased from 200 seconds to 360 seconds. And you used to be able to reduce it further through Ionian boots because you used to be able to gain MR through runes. So this was a viable build path, and this item used to only cost 800 gold, so it was extremely efficient and it was really good when Diana had to deal with an 80 heavier team comp instead of going for the Merc Treads. But now you pretty much the only way to gain MR right now for an AP melee champion is Merc Treads. All these other items are pretty much more efficient on ranged champions, even Abyssal Mask. And that's the big issue, one of the big issues with Diana and a lot of the AP melee champions through a lot of the changes they made. They also added MR per level to ranged champions. All this did was decrease the viability of melee champions in the mid lane. A counter matchup like Fizz into Syndra is now better for Syndra. And so it just further pushed the mid lane meta towards those range champions, especially the ones with sustained damage. That's why all we're seeing is Cassiopeia, Ryze, Azir, those kind of champions mid lane, because MR counters burst and poke. The damage has to stick from burst and poke. If everyone in the game gained like 4 MR per level, most champions would be dead besides this sustained damage champions. Champions maybe like Vladimir, like Cassiopeia, like we've said. So the MR is really important, especially on Diana, because Diana doesn't have exit. It's a little better for a champion like Echo, who can ult out. They don't rely on getting damaged quite as much and getting that burst in. But MR in general, a huge counter to Diana. And then for the rune system is much weaker for Diana. The old runes used to be, and masteries, were all efficient. The only difference between a melee page and a ranged page was the melee champions would take more MR. They'd take full MR per level, maybe some scaling. The range champions would go 6 CDR per level runes. And this was a really good trade-off. Range champions have more opportunities to use their abilities generally, so CDR is more valuable on them. Melee champions are more likely to take damage, so the MR is more efficient, and basically to trade it off, and the rest of the page were about the same, and the masteries were all efficient. Now with the new runes are really champion specific. They're not created equally for all champions. Electrocute's applied better on some champions. Diana can't even use Sudden Impact. Champion like Katarina, like Talon, like Echo can use Sudden Impact right away. Eyeball Collection even works better on the champions we just mentioned. The champions can roam better. Diana doesn't stack this up as well, but the wards are being nerfed, and then same thing with Revenant's Hunter. Some champions just use it better. And the big problem is now if you want to have Resolve secondary, generally as a melee champion, although it's also more efficient on ranged champions now because of bone plating Chrysalis. So this counters burst again and makes ranged champions, the tankier the champions, again, better sustained damage is. And Diana, that's one of the reasons we always build Nashers too, not just for the split push and the burst, but also increase their sustained damage, which is so valuable because burst can always be countered through tank stats. So bone plating Chrysalis got countered. The one that's good for melee champion is Second Wind. But what you'd have to do is remove bone plating, add Second Wind, and just add some other rune here. That would really even out the playing field for the resolve tree. A support being able to take bone plating Chrysalis with sorcery is really strong. Also with the sorcery tree, not a lot of these are efficient. These are more efficient on supports. Airy, Comet's not good on Diana, neither is Phase Rush. Phase Rush better on champions who can proc that quickly, and again are mostly ranged like a Brilliant Soul. And the big problem also is the numbers. You used to be able to get 15 AP from Quince and also a little bit more through other runes and masteries on the old system. And so Diana used to be able to clear the range creeps at level 5 with 3 points in Q, and it would take her 2 Qs to clear the range creeps. She can no longer do that. Huge nerf. Also the meta has changed drastically. So Diana is a split push and one of her greatest strengths, although with TP nerfs, that's already becoming a lot weaker. And then, so a lot of the time you'd build Merc Treads, you'd have the Roa, and you'd have a good build path, but it was only good against tanks, which were really common. Now the tanks are all barely played. No AP champions are really played top anymore. You don't have the Lissandra, you don't have the Gregs, the Maokai, those kind of champions. Now it's all 80 bruisers, and you'll see Jax, Camille, Fiora. Even with a huge gold lead, Diana doesn't have the slightest chance. Neither do a lot of other AP champions. The AD bruisers just completely destroy the AP melee champions and just most AP champions in general, and like a 1v1 side lane scenario. So she can't really function in the side lane. Dyna's never really been able to outperform champions in the mid lane. So she doesn't really have a strong spawn on the map either. So her split push completely nerfed. There's also more objectives now. There's Rift Scuttler and Rift Herald and level 2 ganks. The games are a lot shorter now, also really bad for Dyna. Split pushers want longer game lengths generally. And so split pushing generally gets really hard countered by Rift. Rift speeds up the game a lot. Really bad. If Rift wasn't in the game, Dyna would be a lot better. Same with Rift Scuttle if it wasn't as strong and as a strong objective. The dragons are also really strong. Dyna can't really contest the early ones that well. So you have a lot faster game length and objectives that Dyna doesn't want to contest. Dyna really wants to focus on pushing. Yeah, pushing, maybe looking for picks. But yeah, that's one of her biggest strengths, is her pushing. And then, so now let's look at the update she actually got through all these changes that have basically nerfed her down. So they changed her passive to conditional attack speed. And in my opinion, this is basically, it makes her feel worse, and it's basically a nerf. It nerfs one of her greatest strengths, which was her best burst combo, because you could prep her passive quicker, save your cooldowns, and then go for her strongest burst combo. Instead, we have conditional attack speed. Doesn't really matter if you're not going to get these many auto attacks, and they don't matter against any of the AD bruisers, and it doesn't really help your tower tanking. You can't reach the towers. These two are nice buffs, but they don't really change anything. These are just number buffs. What you need is kit buffs. And the philosophy that would have worked really well is the update Akali got. So Akali, they added a lot to her W. They just added movement speed and a blink. Blink is one of the strongest abilities, and she gets it early, which again helps her with abilities like sudden impact, makes it more efficient. And how they balance it, they nerfed the R damage. They just cut the ratio. So they like, in the assassin update, this is where Dyna could have fit in, especially since Ryan doesn't consider her assassin. Even that's one of the only things she might be good at right now. Yeah, they could have added utility to Dyna's E and nerfed her R damage. And now Akali's getting another rework, an even stronger rework. After this update went through, and with a lot of the newer champions, there's been a huge power creep going on in League. Dyna just can't compete with any new champions. We mentioned like Camille, Zoe now, and with like other range champions getting a mark per level. If LeBlanc, once she has a mark per level, and then if she builds any other Banshee's Veil, has a significantly higher impact than Diana. If both build the same way, or just with anything Diana can do, because she's ranged. So yeah, there's huge power creep going on. So now that maybe Akali's getting her second update, maybe Diana can see her first one. That could help her a bit. But even so, it's going to be hard. Another thing that Akali and Katarina have going for them is that they have AD damage. They have AD ratios and can build Gunblade because they don't have mana. But basically, just with this teleport nerf, it's going to be really hard to play. Teleport now being 6 minutes, it's going to make it really hard to play any AP melee champions mid. Even like Caston, Fizz, Echo, I think they're all pretty done for right now. Hopefully that sees some changes, and then alongside all these champions, also one of their strengths was going to the side lane. A lot would have to change for Dyna to really see play again. Don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I hope so, but we'll have to see. But either way, thank you so much for watching.